Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Let's be honest with each other right now. When the name Ben Stokes flashes across your screen, you don't just see a cricketer, you see a story. You see one of the most electric, most complicated, most utterly compelling figures in the history of English sport. A man who has dragged this Test team from the wreckage with nothing but willpower, audacity and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. And right now, that same man is sitting in Durham, away from the England setup, training quietly with his county club while the entire cricketing world holds its breath and asks the question nobody wants to say out loud: is Ben Stokes finished as England captain? Welcome back to Boundary Line UK. If this is your first time here, buckle up, because we do not do things by halves. Today we are going deep into one of the most turbulent weeks English cricket has seen in years, and trust me, that is saying something. Because this is not just a story about a broken curfew. This is not just a story about a nightclub in London and a Saracens rugby player and two England cricketers who should have known better. This is a story about a man who gave everything to his country, who reinvented an entire team's identity, who carried the weight of a nation's cricketing pride on his shoulders for 4 extraordinary years, and who now faces the very real possibility that it might all be slipping away. It started, as these things so often do, with a celebration. England had just beaten New Zealand in the first Test at Lord's, the home of cricket, a victory that had the dressing room buzzing, the fans elated, and the mood exactly where Brendan, McCullum and Stokes had worked so hard to create it. Winning, joyful, together. The Bazball era firing again after what had been a bruising Ashes winter that left scars on everyone involved. So the players celebrated, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. McCullum himself has talked at length about the importance of celebrating your wins, about sitting around after a battle with your teammates and looking them in the eye and knowing you gave everything. That culture of togetherness, that refusal to be grey and corporate and sanitised. It is part of what has made this England team so watchable, so compelling, so different from what came before. But somewhere in that celebration, the line got crossed. Ben Stokes, England captain, Gus Atkinson, one of the team's brightest young pace bowlers, both men broke the team's midnight curfew. And they were there in a London nightclub when a member of England's security staff was struck by a Saracens rugby player. The details beyond that remain murky because the ECB investigation is ongoing and nobody in the official camp is saying more than they have to. But the fallout has been immediate, brutal and impossible to ignore. Both Stokes and Atkinson have been made unavailable for the second Test at the Oval. Let that land for a second. The England captain dropped, not injured, not rested. Dropped, unavailable, under investigation by his own governing body. The last time something remotely like this happened with Stokes, it was 2017, and it involved a different nightclub, a different city, a trial at Bristol Crown Court, and a charge of a fray that eventually ended in acquittal. Stokes was cleared. But the circus that surrounded that period, the months of uncertainty, the shadow hanging over him while England had to prepare for Ashes series without their most important player, that was a wound that took a long time to heal. Now here we are again. Different circumstances, but the same unsettling feeling, the same sense that English cricket's most important figure has walked into a situation that did not need to happen, and now everyone else has to figure out what comes next. Brendan McCullum faced the media at the Oval on Monday, and it was one of the most revealing press conferences you will see from an England head coach. Not because of what he said, because of what he refused to say. Journalists asked him again and again in different ways about Stokes' future as captain, and McCullum, the man who has been Stokes' partner in this whole extraordinary project from the very beginning, gave them nothing. Not a ringing endorsement, not a reassurance, not even a carefully worded statement of confidence. What he gave them instead was this: worry, concern, care. Over and over, he kept coming back to those words. He is worried about Ben. His concern is for Ben. He cares for Ben immensely. It was the language of someone who is thinking about a person, not a captain, and that distinction matters enormously. McCullum said he went through a range of emotions when he first found out about the curfew breach. Bewilderment, anger, and then very quickly something shifted, because when he actually spoke to Stokes, when he heard what his captain was going through, the overwhelming emotion became worry. Not about the captaincy, not about the ECB investigation, not about England's preparation for the rest of the New Zealand series. Worry about the human being at the centre of it all. That tells you something. It tells you that there is more to this story than a couple of lads staying out past midnight. It tells you that the people closest to Ben Stokes are genuinely concerned about where he is mentally and emotionally right now. And given what we know about the man's recent history, that concern is not melodramatic. It is entirely appropriate, because let us not forget, 2021, Ben Stokes walked away from cricket entirely to prioritise his mental health. At the peak of his powers, in the middle of an international summer, he stepped back from the game he loves because he needed to, because the weight of everything had become too much. When he came back changed, more open, more honest, more willing to talk about struggle and vulnerability in a way that made him, if anything, even more compelling as a figure. And then he took the captaincy, and he took England by the scruff of the neck and dragged them into something magical. But the last 12 months have not been easy. That Ashes defeating Australia over the winter, a 4-1 hammering that Stokes himself described as the toughest time of his captaincy, that left marks. You could see it in his face during some of those press conferences down under, the weariness, the pressure, the sense of a man who pours absolutely everything into this job and sometimes wonders what is left when the game is over. McCullum mentioned the scrutiny that comes with the captaincy. He talked about Stokes putting his heart and soul into the role. He said his captain had done a wonderful job handling the stresses that come with it. And then he paused for a long time when he was asked about Stokes returning to training, about the possibility of him playing county cricket for Durham on Friday, a long-loaded pause. And then just this: I am worried about Ben. That is it. I will leave it at that now. While the national conversation swirls around Ben Stokes' future, Durham are doing things differently. Ryan Campbell, the head coach up in the northeast, is not getting drawn into speculation about captaincy or ECB investigations or what it all means for English cricket. He is doing something much simpler and much more human. He is just keeping the door open. Campbell told BBC Radio Newcastle this week that Durham's doors are always open for any of their Durham boys, that if Ben happens to walk through it, he will be waiting there with arms open wide. And he pushed back firmly on some of the coverage and commentary that has surrounded the incident in the last week. Ben knows he made a mistake and broke the curfew, said Campbell. But some of the reaction has been a little over, coming from an Australian, a man who is decidedly old school about celebrating victories, about having a beer with your teammates after a win. That carries a particular weight. He is not making excuses. He is just asking for perspective. And Campbell has confirmed that Stokes has already returned to training. He is in good spirits. He is working hard. He has put his hand up, admitted the mistake, and is getting on with it in the way you would expect from a man of his character. There is a 75% chance, according to Campbell, that Stokes plays for Durham against Northamptonshire on Friday in the county championship. And that game, a 4-day red ball match that might seem like small fry compared to the Test arena, could actually be one of the most significant moments of Stokes' year, because the third Test at Trent Bridge starts on the 25th of June and his availability for that is currently uncertain. After that, there is a gap before the Pakistan series in mid-August. This Durham match might be the last first-class cricket Ben Stokes plays for weeks. And the way he performs, the way he carries himself, the way he looks when he pulls on a Durham shirt and walks out to face a county championship attack, all of that will matter. All of that will be watched Meanwhile, England have had to rebuild their 11 for the Oval in a hurry. Joe Root steps in as captain, which, let's be honest, is hardly a punishment for anyone watching. Root captained England for 64 tests, has played 180 tests and counting, and remains arguably the finest test batter on the planet. If anyone can hold the fort while the storm passes, it is him. Alongside Root, the selectors have brought in Jofra Archer, the perpetually headline-grabbing pace-bowling superstar whose fitness has been more of a question than his talent for years now. Matthew Fisher comes in, and there are two uncapped debutants making their first appearances in Test cricket. Sonny Baker and Jordan Cox both get their shots under circumstances neither of them could have predicted or planned for. That is Test cricket, though. Opportunity knocks when you least expect it, and sometimes it knocks because someone else has made a mess of things. The broader context here matters too. This has not been a smooth winter for England off the field. Harry Brook, the white ball captain, was punched by a nightclub bouncer in Wellington before a one-day international against New Zealand. Jacob Ethel and Josh Tongue were also present that evening. Ben Duckett was filmed apparently intoxicated in Noosa. During the Ashes mid-tour break, the footage shared on social media, the embarrassment immediate and public. In the wake of those incidents, England introduced the midnight curfew, the very same curfew that Stokes and Atkinson then broke after the Lord's Test. The timing of that is, to put it mildly, staggering. You cannot look at that sequence of events and not feel a sense of disbelief. The policy was put in place precisely because the pattern of off-field incidents had become too much to ignore, and then the captain himself was the first major casualty of it. Rob Key, England's director of cricket, said last week that he could see no reason why Stokes would not play for England again, but he stopped short of endorsing him as captain. McCullum, as we've seen, has been even more careful, and the ECB investigation continues with no confirmed timeline for its conclusion. Until that is done, nothing is certain. The captaincy question hangs in the air, unresolved, uncomfortable, and impossible to avoid. What happens now genuinely is anybody's guess. A resolution that sees Stokes return as captain for Trent Bridge is possible. But so is a scenario where the investigation drags on, where the decision is made that a change is needed, where Joe Root finds himself in the position again, not as stand-in, but as the man in charge. Root, to his eternal credit, has never made a single public noise about wanting the job back, but he leads from the front, he scores runs, he commands respect. If the call came, he would not hesitate. There's also the question of what Ben Stokes himself wants, because this man has never been a passive participant in his own story. He has always shaped the narrative rather than just lived it. When he decided to take a mental health break in 2021, that was his decision, and it took immense courage. When he agreed to take the captaincy in 2022, that was his decision, and he transformed the team. If Stokes decides that the captaincy is no longer right for him, he will say so. And if he decides he wants to fight for it, God help anyone who tries to stand in his way. What we know for certain right now is this: one of the greatest cricketers England has ever produced is training with Durham in the northeast. He is in good spirits, working hard and preparing to potentially play county cricket on Friday. His head coach is genuinely worried about him as a person. His county coach has the arms wide open and the welcome mat out, and the rest of English cricket is watching, waiting and wondering what comes next. One thing we can guarantee: this story is not over with Ben Stokes. It never is. Right. That is it from me today on Boundary Line UK. If you've made it this far, you are clearly as obsessed with this stuff as I am, and I love that about you. Let me know down in the comments what you think happens next. Does Stokes keep the captaincy? Does Root end up back in the job permanently? Is this the beginning of the end of the Stokes era, or just another chapter in the most dramatic cricketing career of his generation? I want your takes, all of them, the spicy ones especially. Do not hold back. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel reach more cricket fans like you. And if you're not already subscribed to Boundary Line UK, hit that subscribe button right now and come back for all the latest from English cricket as this story continues to unfold. We'll be across every development, every press conference, every Durham match update. All of it. See you in the next one.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.